Okay, well, we're learning the book of Shmuel. We're in chapter 20. Chapter 20 of the book of Shmuel, Shmuel Aleph. And it means we're about two-thirds of the way there. For the book of Shmuel has 31 chapters. So we're just about at the two-thirds point. We're going to be talking about a continuation, of course, of this. It's sort of like a soap opera, but it's this story of Shaul trying to kill David HaMelech, and how David keeps he's going to escape numerous times. And the surprising thing is that David's best friend is Shaul's son. They are best friends, and they keep making treaties together that, whoever becomes king next will not treat bad the other one's family. They're going to treat each other's family respectfully, whoever becomes king. And so David is nervous for his life. David is running for his life. And what we're going to see here is that Yonasan is he's not really aware of the severity of the situation, especially because he already got his father to promise that he's not going to kill David. The problem is that David has other information coming to him, and he's got experience where Shaul did try to kill him. And Yonasan's claim is, yes, it's true, there might have been some situations, but those situations were when the spirit of melancholy had affected Shaul, and that's not the real. Okay, now that I muted everyone, it should be better. That's not the real Shaul. So Yonasan, the son of Shaul, is going to try to convince David that his father doesn't want to really kill him. He had some episodes of his mental illness or his melancholy, his paranoia, his whatever this was. The Hebrew term is the ruach ra, this bad spirit. And those times you'll have to be careful for yourself. But other than that, Shaul is not really interested in killing David, according to Yonasan. And David doesn't believe that. David has other sources, and he's pretty convinced otherwise. But he's also not sure who to believe, and he asks Yonasan here to let's test Shaul. We'll test the waters, and we're going to find out what the real truth is. Yes, David.
Yeah, I saw this interesting, I don't know if you want to call it a tidbit, a short while ago. We were talking about Michal, Shaul's daughter, that married David. So this explanation given by this Makubal, and he was a student of the Ramak, Moshe Cordovero, and anyway, it's a whole explanation. He says in a real brief summary, who was Michal? She was a Gilgul. She was a reincarnation of Mrs. On Ben Pelas. And there's a number of similarities and connections between one and the other. I'm doing this in my essay, so I don't want to take up time, but that's a very interesting tidbit I thought you might be interested in.
You could still take up a little time. It sounds very interesting. What do you recall? Like maybe a little more juice of that? What he says? Like anything you could add to that? Like what? Like I know Ein Ben Pelas, the wife, she brushed her hair in public in order to get Kairach not to want to come by, and so she saved her husband. So saved her husband spiritually. And here Michal is sort of saving her husband more physically. Is that? But it's saving, I guess. Is that like what? Is there anything you could add to what you were?
Can you still hear me?
Yes. Now I
Okay.
can.
So this is there's a pasuk in Mishlei that says Chachmas Nashim Bansa Baisa the Ivelas Biadeha Tarsenu. The wisdom of women builds a house, and the foolish woman destroys hers with her hands. So the Mefarshim say the wise woman. Who is this? This is the wife of On ben Pelas. But it doesn't say woman, it says women. So it's two women. And so the foolish woman is singular. So it seems that there's two wise women who built their homes. So this Ramah of Mipano, who was a Makubal, okay, and he says that the second woman was Michal, the daughter of Shaul, who also saved David HaMelech's life by helping him hide from Shaul. So why does Rashi only mention the wife of On? Because the Ramah Mipano says that Michal was an incarnation of Mrs. On. So they were two women, but really one, since one was a reincarnation of the other. Right. And what did Michal do? She risked her life by putting a dummy of her husband in the bed while her husband escaped from Shaul. And where did she get the courage to do this? Because she was the soul of Ashes On ben Pelas. And there's other, he says, he goes on to say that from the Arizal that she came back in the third Gilkul as Kimchis, who was misakin the Avera of uncovering her hair by going to the opposite extreme and never uncovering her hair, even her own house. Wow. And there's more stuff. Yeah.
That's really nice. Thank you, David, for sharing that.
I'll say one more thing. It says it's interesting to think that this idea of Michal being the Gilgal of Mrs. On, when we think about her advice to David years later, she seems to be comfortable to speak her mind, telling David that his dancing was inappropriate, which was not. But this is the same person who was praised for saving his life earlier. But when we think that she is Mrs. On, we see that in her previous life, she was successful in both advising her husband and saving his life. And as Michal did, where she saved his life in one incident, and she was not correct in her rebuke in the second incident. And the last thing it says, it's also interesting that she saved David by putting a dummy in the bed, which is reminiscent of Mrs. On putting her husband to bed, thereby saving his life. The end.
I'm not sure if I caught that one point that you made, that when Michal rebukes her husband wrongly, how does that fit in? That she wrongly rebukes him for dancing too much, and really what he did was right, but she, having the influence of her father, the different understanding of what a Jewish king is. So, but how did that connect to Mrs. On ben Pelas?
Oh, because she's saying that where did she come up with the chutzpah, with the nerve to step in and try to rebuke him about the dancing, which was wrong? But where did she get this strength? Because she was operating with the neshama of Mrs. On ben Pelas, and that's where she got the courage to. Oh, actually, it says here that she got the courage to save his life by putting the dummy of David in the bed while he escaped, and she got the courage to do this because she was Mrs. On ben Pelas.
Right. No, that I got. Okay, fine. All right.
So what was the other thing you didn't say?
The thing that I was talking about was when she was rebuking her husband for dancing too much.
Right. So it just says that she was correct in her rebuke. In one incident, she saved his life, and she was not correct in her rebuke in the second incident. The first incident was when she helped him escape from Shaul. And the second incident was when she rebuked him for dancing, and she was not correct in the second incident.
Right. And was that similar to On ben Pelas, that she was wrong for combing her hair, or is that comparing it to some other story? It doesn't say.
It doesn't say, but it could be because she did it because it was a life and death. Right. But they're saying from the Arizal that she came back as this third Gilgal in order to fix the uncovering of her hair by going to the opposite extreme and never uncovering her hair in her own house.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, well, thank you very much, Dov, for that beautiful Kabbalistic, that's the Kabbalistic element of the class. So here we're going to start in chapter 20, and we've got David is at this point, he had run away to Shmuel, and we were talking about how Shaul sent 3 groups of soldiers to try to, to Shaul to get David, and they all ended up prophesizing with Shmuel, and they didn't want to leave, and they lost track of what their mission was. And Shaul then went himself, and he also started prophesizing, and that's that's the backdrop of this story in chapter 20, that now David is going to be able to escape. So we're in chapter 20, the book of Shmuel Aleph, verse 1. Then David fled from Noyos in Ramah. He was able to run away. Why was he able to run away? Because Shaul is in the midst of prophesying. So while he's prophesying, David is now leaving. And he comes home, goes near where Yonasan is. He came and said before Yonasan, "What have I done? What is my iniquity and my sin before your father, that he seeks my life?" He said to him, "It would be a sacrilege. You shall not die." So Yonasan is telling David, no, you don't have to worry. Behold, my father does not do a major thing or a minor thing without revealing it to me. So why should my father conceal this matter from me? It is not so. So Yonasan does not believe that this is true. And interesting, in the Hebrew, you have here what's called a kri and a kesiv. There's a way it's written and a way it's read. And if you take that into consideration, there is a way of reading this that if my father Shaul wants to hurt you, whether big or small, he's going to end up hurting himself, because God is with you. You are going to be fine. In the end, it'll end up going back on his father. That's what Yonasan says, and that's based on the way it's written, the way it's read. Again, there's certain tradition we have that sometimes the verse says one thing, but it's read slightly differently, and that's the meaning of loy asa. He'll do it to himself. That if he wants to do something big or small, it'll end up happening to him and not to you. And that's one of the explanations here of what Yonasan is telling David. But the main point is he's telling David not to be afraid. His father does not want to kill him. He just, at his certain moments when he loses himself, that's when you got to be careful. Yes, David.
I had a question. At the time when Shmuel told Shaul, "You didn't listen to the words of Hashem and kill the king of Amalek, etc." And Hashem is removing himself from you, or words to that effect. So how is he able to still prophesize if Hashem is removing himself from him?
So he's not prophesizing in his own merit. He's prophesizing the merit of Shmuel. He's in the right place with all the students there, and that prophecy is sort of like spilling over, and he's meriting to be able to partake of it, being that he's in the right place and he is a holy person. But at the same time, there is a concept of the fact that what you're saying, that Hashem sort of left him, so to speak. But no, he is just like everyone else who wasn't really eligible to prophesize, but they're prophesizing because they're at this place and they're meriting it. So Shaul is as well as in the same ballpark. In addition to the fact that Shaul actually is benefiting a little more than other people because he somehow does have this merit to him that that he is considered a righteous person, very righteous person. Yes, Ben.
I wanted to say I look at it and I see that it's God's finger or God's hand in it, that he's giving David the time to run away. That's the only reason he would let Shaul prophesize.
But he not only let him prophesize, he even gave him prophecy early. So he is doing more than what he needs to. God is giving him extra than what if that was the only
he doesn't deserve it, but he's giving it for David.
Yeah, but
for
he
David's
doesn't
benefit.
I understand what you're saying, but keep in mind that he doesn't need to give him this extra bonus of prophesizing even before he arrives. Here, he's getting prophecy even before he arrives. So he does deserve, there is some, merit that Shaul has, that he's getting this prophecy even before, even before the other people are getting it. So he's got something there.
I thought he was prophesying with the other people.
Yeah, but if you look at the verse, Vayelach holoich vayisnabe ad boyoy berama. Even before he arrives, he's in the Metzudas David says in verse 23, Vatihi olav oidei baderach, even while he's still on the way. So there is some merit that he's got, that he's getting the prophecy early, even more than the others. Okay, so in any event, the verse that we're up to is verse 3. But David swore to him again and said, "Your father knows very well I have found favor in your eyes." So he said to himself, "I'm not going to tell my son. Yonasan should not know about this, lest he be saddened. However, as Hashem lives, and by your life, there is but a footstep between me and death." And so he's making sure that Yonasan understands that his perception is not necessarily correct. And verse 4 says, Yonasan says to David, "Whatever your soul shall say, I shall do for you." Which the one of the explanations is, tell me how I should test it out. Tell me what I should do to test my father. Give me a plan to find out his true intention. And so verse 5 says, David said to Yonasan, "Behold, tomorrow, tomorrow is the new moon. New moon means Rosh Chodesh, when I would usually sit with the king to eat. Grant me leave, and I will hide in the field until the third evening of the month. If your father notices my absence, you shall say to him, David asked me to let him run to his hometown, Beis Lechem, for there is an annual feast offering there for the entire family." If he says thus, good, then it is well for your servant, meaning he's not angry at me. But if he gets very angry, then know that the evil decree has become final with him. Do this favor for your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of Hashem with you. If I am guilty of an iniquity, kill me yourself. Why bring me to your father? So David wants to make it very clear that, if he does deserve to die, so then fine, do so. If that's what he deserves. But if David, if he's guilty of some type of treason or rebelliousness, so better you should kill me than Shaul, than your father. And one of the commentaries explains that Yonasan would be eligible maybe to kill him, because if he's acting against Shaul, then he's basically considered to be sinning against Yonasan, because he's going to deprive him of his rightful succession to the throne. And if so, Yonasan would be the right person to kill him. Now, I'm not sure how that fits halachically with the law of Moired b'malchus, of would he truly be eligible halachically to kill him? Or does he mean that I'm physically hurting your rulership, and I could imagine that you would want me to, you would want to kill me? Or maybe what it means is that Shaul, you would be doing Shaul's job as like an emissary of Shaul. But the point is that David is being honest and saying, I don't even know that I did any act that deserves death. Shaul wants to kill me, but was I rebellious? Did I do something wrong? And Yonasan says, Chalila, far be it from you, chas v'shalom. For if I knew that the evil decree has become final with my father, would I not tell it to you?
Rabbi, what verse are you on?
I just did verse 9. And verse 9 means, like, do you think I would withhold something from you? How could I do that? Don't accuse me of withholding. If I knew that you were guilty, I would tell you. David then said to Yonasan, did I skip? Maybe I skipped something. 1 second. No, I didn't skip. So Yonasan says to David, come, let us go out to the field. And they both went out to the field. So Yonasan and David, they're nervous that maybe someone's going to see them. So they said, let's go to the field. And Yonasan said to David, I swear by Hashem, God of Israel, that I will probe my father at this time on the 3rd day from now. And behold, if it is good for David, will I not then send for you and reveal it to you? So, in other words, I will fill you in. I will tell you what's going on. I will test my father out. And verse 13, such shall Hashem do to Yonasan And such shall he do further. If it pleases my father to harm you, I will reveal it to you, and I will send you away that you may go to peace. And may Hashem be with you as he was with my father. Yes, Ben.
I'm sorry, but I have a question about Pasuk Bet.
Yeah,
They
okay.
changed the Kli and the Ktiv.
Yeah.
What's the difference? He's saying, he can say, my father never did anything, big or small, without telling me. So why? So he's not going to do it again in the future. So here they change it to Lo Yaseh in the future. It's it's the same thing.
So the word
If
loy
he didn't
is,
do it, he's not going to do it.
yeah, but let me tell you, it's a big thing. Lo yasa means he's going to end up doing it to himself. You know how some people, they put a trap out there and they end up falling into the trap themselves? This is what Yonason is saying. If he wants to do something bad to you, it's not going to happen because God is going to protect you. Guess who's going to fall into the trap?
That's not what he's saying. He's saying he's not going to do it to you because he never did a small or big thing without telling me.
That you're reading it the simple way. Yeah. But now you got to read the ksiv, the way it's written. Hine lo yasa. Behold, he's going to do it to himself. Lo yasa davar gadol, a davar katan. He will do something big or something small, loy, to him. He's going to end up doing it to him. It's a way of reading. It's a hinted way. It's like a remez. It's like a hint of the pasuk is hinting something.
They're changing two words.
Well, the word loy, yeah, but the main word is loy with the vav instead of an aleph. But you're right. It's changing the word asa, yas.
Yeah.
If he,
So
you have to read both.
Words to bring a new idea, you have to change a little bit. So that's what they did.
The point is, if he wants to do something to you, if he's going to do something to you, it's going to happen to him. Loy with a vav. Like it wouldn't be smart for him to do something to aim at you because he's going to end up aiming at himself. You sort of have to read both, but that's the way the hint.
Okay.
That's the way the sometimes.
So you can understand it both
ways. Yeah. No, for sure. Okay. Yeah, of course, the simple way of reading it is the way you read it. I'm not disagreeing. Okay, so Yonason is telling David that he's going to make sure to fill him in on whatever he finds out. And what's interesting is the difference in the terms, the way he writes, the way it says it in verse 12, where it says, "Will I not send for you?" And in verse 13, it's, "I will reveal to you," meaning I wouldn't want to, I'm not going to send someone else. That would be too dangerous. I'm going to do it myself, tell you that he's out to kill you. Because if he sends someone else, that means someone else will find out of his hiding place. But if he's only caring to do peace, if he's at peace, then it's not an issue. So this is the this is hinted to the in the Rashi explains what I just said, that only I will reveal to you. I will not send an emissary if there's bad news. So we're in verse 14 now. I need not ask anything of you. If I will still be alive, when you become king, for would you not do with me the kindness of Hashem, so that I will not die? So he's like begging him, please don't, we have our deal that, if you become king, don't kill me, even though my father did all this terrible stuff. His aim is trying to kill you. But do not cut off your kindness from my descendants forever, not even when Hashem cuts each of David's enemies from the face of the earth. And Yonasan also sealed a covenant regarding David's household and added, may Hashem exact punishment from the enemies of David. Jonathan again adjured David because of his love for him, for he loved him as he loved himself. So we have this guarantee, this promise that, they want to stay friends. And ultimately, Yonasan understands that David is ultimately going to be the king. At least that's what it seems. And he wants to make sure that David will stay friendly with him, even after, everything that his father is putting him through. And even after he becomes king, he shouldn't take revenge. And it turns out that there actually is a situation where David later on is going to be a decision maker with regard to the descendants of Shaul. And that has to do with the fact that it's a story that's going to come up soon where Shaul makes a big mistake and he kills out a whole city of Kohanim and all their servants. And in the end, David ends up in a position where he's obligated to kill out, I think it's 7 descendants. It's either 5 or 7, I think it's 7 descendants of Shaul's household. And that's where David has to decide which people he's going to kill, and as part of the punishment that that obviously he understood that was what was necessary, but it was up to him to choose which ones. And in that scenario, he obviously did not made sure that it wasn't Yonasan's kids, even though this was a punishment from heaven against Shaul's family, but David HaMelech had the right to choose which ones. And obviously Yonasan, who he made a treaty with, he was obligated to keep that treaty, and he does fulfill what he's asked and what he promised. So we are now.
Is that after Shaul dies?
That is after Shaul dies, yes.
Okay.
Now,
Rabbi, it almost sounds like the brothers trying to make sure that Yosef doesn't attack them after Yaakov dies.
Right. That is interesting. Very interesting. Right, nice comparison. Yeah. So here we're actually at the famous. This is a famous Haftarah, where we read it whenever Shabbos is the day before Rosh Chodesh. We always read this Haftarah. Very interesting. Now, the verse 18. It starts in verse 18. Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon. It's Rosh Chodesh, and you will be missed. That's why when it's Shabbos and the next day is Sunday is Rosh Chodesh, is the new month, the new Jewish month. So we read this in the Torah, in the prophets. We read this section. Jonathan said to him, tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed because your seat will be empty. For 3 days, For 3 days you are to remain far down and come to the place where you hid on the day of the incident and stay near the marker stone. It's called the Even Ha'ozel. And so he's telling him that, I'm going to give you a sign of how, you'll know if you have to run away. And the point is that there might be people around, and I'm not going to be able to speak to you, possibly. And in that case, we're going to make a sign so that you'll know what to do. I'll make this sign. Yes, David.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be too picky, but on verse 18, I'm just wondering, Jonathan Yonason says, tomorrow's the new moon and you will be missed because your seat will be empty. It seems like the order should be tomorrow is the new moon, your seat will be empty and you will be missed. Why will you be missed? Because your seat's empty. It sounds like they switched around the 2 and 3 to 3 and 2. I don't know why, but I'm just noticing.
Right. I'm sure there's some interpretation on that. I don't happen to know. Maybe I'll try to look into it. You didn't see anything on it? Oh, okay. I'm sure, it's a nice question. In any event, he's giving him this, he's going to give him this signal, the sign, and I will shoot 3 arrows in that direction as if I were shooting at a target.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
It's interesting that he tells him the 3rd day after you missed. Because if he did it the next day, Shaul would catch him and say, oh, you ran right away to tell him.
Right.
So
No, for sure it has to be.
Give me a couple days and then I'll come on the 3rd day and talk to you.
Right. It for sure has to be afterwards. This would be too dangerous. And as we'll see, this is a very fragile situation with Shaul. And in those days, people went around murdering. I mean, it was crazy the way people spoke and the way they you could tell from their language how death was that was part of their vocabulary, killing people and so on. It's unbelievable how, and especially a king, it was oh, this person will have to kill. Okay, let's kill him, just like nothing.
They had the power.
Right. But it is a little, it's not something, I don't think anyone, at least I hope not. I hope we're not familiar with this type of language. But in any event, no, so it's a very serious thing if he gets caught. For sure, he has to wait. So for 3 days, you are to remain far down, come to the place where you hid on the day of the incident, stay near the marker stone. Okay, we're in verse 20. I will shoot 3 arrows in that direction as if I were shooting at a target. Behold, I will then send the lad. So I'm going to come with a little child here, and who's not going to obviously understand what's going on with regard to you and me. He's not going to know any part of the story, just the lad. And I'm going to say, go find the arrows. If I say to the lad, behold, the arrows are on this side of you, then you yourself may take the lad and return. One second. Behold, the arrows are on this side of you. If I say to the lad, behold, the arrows are on this side of you, then you yourself may take and return, for it is well with you, and there is no concern, as Hashem lives, which means you can get out of your hiding place. This is what it means. You can get out of I'm sorry, it's just a little hard. The words are a little confusing, but let me tell you what it means. He's telling David that you can come out of your hiding place and you can collect the arrows and bring them back to me. Because I'm going to tell the lad, behold, they're closer to me, and he's going to start coming to me, and you can get up and bring them to me. But if I say to the boy, behold, the arrows are beyond you, the arrows are further away, then go, for this is a sign that Hashem has sent you away. So I'm going to say either the arrows are close, which means you can come close, or I'm going to say the arrows are further. So again, I'm shooting arrows in different, some close, some far, and I'm sending this boy to go collect them. And if I tell the boy, oh, you went too far, come closer, come back, because the arrows are closer to me, what I'm really saying is, David, you can come out of your hiding place and you can come to me and you're fine. If I'm going to say the arrows are further, boy, you got to go much further, go away. I'm basically telling David to go away. I'm telling you, David, this is your sign that I'm hinting to you that you should run away. And that Hashem has sent you away. But this matter of which we have spoken, I and you, behold, Hashem remains witness that it's between me and you forever. So that is the agreement between David and Yonasan and their plan of how they're gonna give the message over to David. David concealed himself in the field. It was the new moon. The king sat at the meal to eat. The king sat at his seat, as at other times, at the seat by the wall. Jonathan stood up, and Abner sat at Shaul's side, and David's place was empty. So normally David would sit next to Shaul, and here, after David, Yonasan would sit there. So Shaul sat at the head. Then came next to him was David normally, and next to him was Yonasan, and next to Yonasan was Avner. Now, because David's seat was empty, so Yonasan, the custom was that the son of the prince doesn't sit next to his father. There's always someone who sits in between. So Yonasan switched seats with Avner. So Avner sat at Shaul's side. David's place was empty, and Yonasan was next to Avner. Shaul said nothing on that day, for he thought, oh, it's a coincidence. He must not be pure, for he has not been cleansed. So maybe he didn't go to mikvah. And here you see that they used to go to mikvah anytime that they had any reason that they might feel impure, they would go to mikvah, and they wouldn't. Maybe that's why he didn't come. Maybe he's not pure. He has not been cleansed. In verse 27, it was the day after the new moon, the second day of the month, and David's place was empty. So Shaul said to Yonasan, to his son, why did the son of Yishai not come to the meal either yesterday or today? So now he's asking about the 2 days that David was not there. So Yonasan answered Shaul, he said, oh, David asked me for permission to go to Beis Lechem. He said, please grant me leave, for we have a family feast offering in the city. And he summoned me. In other words, my brother summoned me. And so now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please let me be excused that I may see my brothers. That is why he did not come to the king's table. So Yonasan is giving a nice excuse to Shaul, which he's really saying in order to try to find out if Shaul is really ready to kill David and how angry he is at David, or is he fine? And so he gave him this excuse that, David actually asked me permission. That's what Yonasan said. David asked permission from me that he should leave. He wants to go to a family event. They do once a year, this event. And this is why he did not come to the king's table. And guess what happens? Shaul's anger flared up at Yonasan. And he said to him, son of the pervertedly rebellious woman. And he blows up. Do I not know that you choose the son of Yishai to your own shame? And in the shame of your mother's nakedness. In other words, that you are supporting the enemy. And by doing that, this is a little surprising, but the Radak says, people are going to say that you must be a child of an adulterous relationship because you have that evil side to you, that you're gonna take the side of my enemy. That means that you have rebelliousness against your father. Maybe that's a sign. People are going to say that. Maybe they're going to say that I had some relationship with someone in an adulterous way, and that's why you have this negative trait. For all the days that the son of Yishai is alive on earth, you and your kingdom will not be established. Shaul is in dreamland, thinking that his son is somehow going to take him over, and that if Yonasan is too friendly with David, that's going to ruin his potential for being king. And so Shaul is rebuking his son. And he says, as long as Yishai, the son of Yishai, meaning David, as long as David is alive, you and your kingdom will not be established. And now send and bring him to me, for he is deserving of death. So here he's got, he's starting again with his death threat. And he believes that David should die, and he says, bring him to me. But Yonasan spoke up to his father, and he said to him, why should he die? What has he done? And Shaul took the spear and hurled it to strike him. And Yonasan then realized that his father had decided to kill David. I guess that was definitely clear once he takes the spear out and he wants to hit Yonasan with it. That now he knows he means business. Yes, David.
I'm seeing this thing interesting thing in Mayam Loez before on verse 20 when you were talking about if I shoot the arrows to the side. So the comments, the arrows are on this side would mean that Shaul's angry, but his angry is on this side. It's under his control, and he wasn't a threat to David's life. But if he said the arrows are farther from you, this would mean that the anger had gone farther than it should have. It's out of Saul's control, and he's just going to lose it.
Uh-huh. So either he's in control of it or he's not in control of it. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice insight. So Yonasan arose from the table enraged. He did not partake of food on that second day of the month, for he was saddened over David and because his father had humiliated him. And this is where Yonasan is now realizing that David was right. David was correct in his suspicion that Shaul is out to get him. And it happened, verse 35, it happened the next morning that Yonasan went out to the field for the meeting with David, and a young attendant was with him, And he said to his attendant, please run and find the arrows that I shoot. The attendant ran and he shot the arrows to go beyond him. And the attendant arrived at the place of the arrow that Yonasan had shot. And Yonasan called out after the attendant and said, is not the arrow beyond you? It's further. And Yonasan then called out after the attendant, quickly, hurry, do not stand still. And Yonasan's attendant gathered the arrows and came to his master. And what Yonasan was hinting was that that David's going to have to hurry, because he's telling this to his attendant, but really he's hinting this to David, that not only is as David Alensky just told us, that the anger has gone above and beyond, and he wants to kill you, but that you better hurry, do not stand still. He's really telling that to David. And so the attendant knew nothing. Only Jonathan and David, only Yonasan and David understood the matter. And Yonasan gave his equipment to his attendant, and he said to him, go bring it to the city. And the attendant went, and David stood up from near the south side of the stone, and he fell on his face to the ground and prostrated himself 3 times. So what's happening here is that although maybe this wasn't what they planned, but it turned out that no one was around. Because no one was around, so Yonasan sort of like changed the plans a drop and said, okay, let me actually have a word with David before he runs off. And so he sent his attendant back to the city. And here each man kissed the other, and they wept with one another until David wept greatly, which means that David wept even more. And of course, this meant that David's life was in jeopardy. And Jonathan said to David, go to peace. What the 2 of us have sworn in the name of Hashem, saying Hashem shall be a witness between me and you, and between my offspring and your offspring shall be forever. So they reaffirmed their vow. And what is interesting is that Yonasan doesn't want to speak about the Lashon Hara, about his father's craziness. He doesn't speak the evil, the gossip. He just tells him what he needs to know. His father's out to kill him. That's it. And that was considered appropriate, the appropriate way of dealing with it. He didn't have to go into the discussion and how, his father, went livid and lost himself and so on. Just said, listen, he's out to kill you. You better run. And they, again, they reaffirmed their vow, and David's going to start, and this is going to be a major part of David's life, running away from Shaul. Major part of his, the scary, very scary episodes in his life. And it is, what we will see also about this is that there is a mistake on Yonasan's part. And that is that Yonasan should have given David some food to go. And he didn't. And David ended up starving to the, very, very close, close to death, so to speak. He was really starving, and he didn't have food. Of course, he was very nervous to approach anyone, because He didn't want people to know where he was. And he was, he was in a very dangerous situation. But we'll see in the next chapter is how he ends up going to the Mishkan, in Noiv, and he ends up, getting a few things that he needs over there. And we'll talk about that, Mitzvah Hashem, next week. Yes, let's see, who wanted to say something? Ben, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, doesn't Jonathan die pretty soon in one of the fights?
But there's enough time between now and when they die to have a lot of episodes of David's nervous for his life. So it's not that long, but it's, if you're living
it's long
through
enough for starvation. Yeah.
It's long enough for a lot of things. The challenges that he went through in this short year, half a year, whatever it was. Yeah. It's a lot of close calls, a lot of close calls. Yes, David.
You were saying about that Yonasan didn't want to relate any Lashon Hara regarding his father. So Me'am Lois in verse 20, several verses earlier, it talks about the 3 arrows that he shot. So the Me'am Lois says that the 3 arrows are referring to Lashon Hara, which is called the 3-pronged tongue, as it kills 3, the speaker, the listener, and the one spoken of.
Very nice. And what that really means is that Yonasan is basically explaining to David that why my father is out to kill you is because there's someone who's slandering you to my father. And it's the Lashon Hara that's causing this whole problem. And you know who that person is? That person is none other than Doeg, the great scholar Doeg, who is maybe a great scholar, but he's completely evil. And anytime he has the opportunity to badmouth David, he does. And he's the source of Shaul, because he started from the beginning when Shaul was becoming melancholy. Doeg started then claiming, "Oh, David this would be a perfect person to play for you. He's so talented. He's amazing. Everything he said was in order to get Shaul to be jealous." And I don't know if I saw this somewhere or I just assumed it, but maybe it's my own understanding. But the what it seems like is that Doeg hated David also because David seemed to always be right whenever there was a debate in Torah study. And so David was a threat to Doeg, and Doeg figured if I get David to be a threat to Shaul, then I'll be the master scholar. No one will be able to say I'm wrong, even if I'm wrong. I don't have to be right anymore because I'll automatically right. There's no one to, no one will tell me off. So that's what at least it seems that he really hated David. Why did he want to do this? He just, unless you want to say that he just liked death, he liked to see people dying. Like, what did he have against David? It just seems like he was jealous that David, the halacha always followed David. David seemed to be right always. That's what it seems like. Maybe I saw it somewhere, or it might be my own thought. Anyway, that's the story to be continued. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.